All right, it's day 4 of the Claude Challenge, and let's talk about Claude skills. So, yesterday you set up a project. That was a smart move. Now, let's picture the next part. You finish a client call, you open Claude, and you start typing out how you want the notes to be written. Pull the wins, flag what's stuck, listen to what they agreed to. The same instructions you've typed over and over again, and you've typed after the last call, the call before that, and the call before that. The project knows the business, but it still doesn't know the individual steps. So, if we haven't met yet, I'm Dr. Kim, and people call me the AI Doctor. I help entrepreneurs put AI to work without the hype. If you're new here, the Claude Challenge days 1 through 3 are linked below. So, start with those, and today will land much better. If this is useful, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can catch the rest of the channel, and also send it to another business owner who needs it. So, like I was saying, yesterday was projects. This is where your business context live, so you can stop re-explaining who you are and how you sound. Skills. And this is where specific jobs live, the exact steps for doing it, so Claude does this job your way each and every time without you having to tell it how. So, exactly what is a skill? Well, a skill is a set of instructions for one specific job. You define how that job should be done one time. You give it the steps, you give it a format, you give it a standard that you hold, and Claude applies those instructions every time the job comes up. So let me give you a real world example. I have VIP coaching clients that I see on a biweekly basis. Each client, I've created their own Claude project like we did yesterday. And in that Claude project, we have their client files, who they are, who they serve, what they do, my coaching framework, and notes from each one of our coaching sessions. That way, I'm always able to go back to it and keep a running tally of what's happening. I can go back to this project time after time, and I use it to prep for upcoming calls. I use it to do trend analysis on what's happening with them. I use it to determine what assignments they're going to need and what the next steps are. So you can think of projects as the what. When I take my notes during our coaching sessions, they may come from an AI note taker like Read.ai, or sometimes they come from me because I'm taking them manually. Sometimes my notes are a little unorganized. So what I did was I created a skill that formats all of my coaching notes in the same format every time. So think of the skill as a how. It holds your procedure, the exact way a particular task gets done. And when you use projects and skills together, the results are saved time and very often an increase in revenue. So once a skill is turned on, you don't have to call it by name. Claude is so good that it recognizes the job from what you're asking for, and it applies the matching skill on its own. So for today's example, we're going to use yesterday's scenario of a woman that I coach who is a florist named Renee. She owns a wedding studio, and I already have a project set up for her, and that's the one that you saw me reference. After every session with her, I write up my notes the same way, sometimes disjointed, sometimes from Read.ai, sometimes even just from the conversation that we're having. So that's the job that I'm going to teach Claude to do for me so that I don't have to reformat my notes. I don't have to make sense of them. I don't have to put them in categories or anything like that. So enough talking. Let's build this skill live. So here we are in my Claude environment, and there's one thing that we have to do before we even build a skill. We have to turn on the setting that powers skills. So what we need to do is come down, and we're going to go into settings, and then we're going to come down to capabilities. And what we're looking for is right here, code execution and file creation. You want to make sure that this setting is on so that you can create your skills. Now that we see that it's on, let's actually create the skill. So we're going to click on Customize over on the left-hand side, and Skills, and the plus sign for Create. Now we're going to create a skill with Claude, and it tells us, let's create a skill together using your skill creator skill. First, ask me what the skill should do. And I tell you, I've got a prompt already that tells Claude skill exactly how I want it to write, what I want it to write, and what I need it to do. So I'm going to pop that in. I want a skill for writing up my coaching session notes. When to use it? Anytime I paste in raw notes from a coaching session and ask for a write-up. The job, take my messy notes from the call and turn them into a clean session summary with these sections in this order. Where we are, which phase of my coaching framework this client is in right now, diagnose the math, reset the price, tighten delivery, or build in time. What moved? The win or the number that changed since last session. What is stuck? The blocker we hit, one or two lines. What we decided, the decisions made on the call. Homework, what the client agreed to do before next time, and next session focus, the one thing to open with next time. The rules are to keep it tight, plain sentences, no filler. If something needs my attention before the next session, put a line at the very top that starts with flag, warm and direct, the way I write. So what this does is it makes sure that my coaching notes are the exact same each and every time. And notice there was no code. I described the job exactly the way that I would explain it to a new assistant on their first day. So the steps, the format, the one rule about flagging things that I need to handle, and that is the entire skill. And as you can see, Claude is giving me back a response. It's telling me that's a clean brief, so I don't need to interrogate you. Let me lock in 3 small decisions up front, and you can overrule any of them. The output is inline text, not a Word doc. Session notes are short, and you'll likely paste them into your CRM or a doc. The skill will offer a file only if you ask. The 4 phases need short cues so that the write-up lands the client in the right one every time. Hard, no fabrication rule. If a number, win, decision, or homework item isn't in your raw notes, the skill says so instead of inventing one. So now it's going to write the draft. All right, the draft is written. And before I show you the file, here's the part I need your eyes on most since it drives the section. All right, it wrote short cues for each of your 4 phrases, diagnose the math. Let's see. Raw notes, I fed it. So it's giving itself raw notes and it's testing itself. So here is what the skill produced, where we are, what moved, what is stuck, what we decided, the homework, and next session focus. So we have created this skill. We have the session notes, the flag line, the client line, where we are, the 4 phases, the voice, handling thin notes, the worked example, and a clean write-up. And I'm kind of digging this. I like the way that this skill has turned out. So I'm going to click here and tell it to save the skill. All right, the skill has been saved. Now I know that we saw that it tested itself, but let's test it ourselves. And I am going to paste in some notes, some messy notes, if you will, into Renee's project. So we're going to go down here to projects. We're going to access VIP coaching client Renee Acosta and open up her project. And how can I help you today? And I'm going to say these are raw notes. And I'm going to paste those notes in. Session 5, Renee, she finally did it, raised the standard package from $2,800 to $3,600, booked 2 at the new price already. Mother of the bride pushback on 1, but Renee held the line. I won't read the entire thing, but notice we still have our instructions, we have our files, and I am not going to call the skill directly. It is simply going to know that it needs to be called up and it needs to format my notes from the last session I had with Renee. All right, and here we have it. We have our result. Before anything else, the win because she earned it, and your framework says credit it out loud or she won't hold it. Where she actually is, the phase placement, done versus agreed, the pattern plainly, and an opening with the delivery handoff. So we have the same 6 sections that we created as a result of the skill. It placed her in the right phase. It tightened the delivery because pricing is already moved. It pulled the real win at the top and 2 bookings at the higher price. It caught the free Sunday setups and put a flag at the top because that is the thing I need to deal with before the next session. So now we have raw notes in, a finished write-up out in my format in seconds. I taught it the job just one time, and it will do it this way for every client from here on out. So one thing that will save you a big headache to remember is that Claude decides when to use a skill by reading its description. It reads the description of the skill. It's that short line about when the skill applies. So if you ever build a skill and Claude doesn't reach for it or it reaches for the wrong one, the description is usually the reason. It's probably too vague. Make it more specific about when the skill is for, or just tell Claude straight out, use my session notes skill. Either one is going to work. You can find skills that other people have built and you can turn them on, but be careful. I only want you to turn on the ones from a source that you trust. A skill carries instructions, so treat it like anything else that you would let into your business. Trusted source or one that you built yourself. So, where do we use skills? A few jobs that are worth turning into skills this week. Like we just showed, your client call notes. What about your proposal formats? You probably have a particular way that you create your proposals on a regular basis. Why not turn that into a Claude skill so that every proposal comes out structured the same way without you having to rebuild it? What about the way you turn a client testimonial into a social post, or your standard onboarding email for a new client, or even your monthly reports? So think about those things that you do on a regular basis that you want to have a standard process, a standard procedure, or a standard look. Anything that you do the same way more than a few times, where you catch yourself re-explaining the steps, is a skill that's just waiting to happen. So that is day 4. Project gives Claude your context. A skill gives Claude your procedure, the exact steps for one job so it does that job your way every time. You build one by describing it in plain English with Create or with Claude, and then you turn it on once, and from then on, Claude will reach for it on its own. Set the process down one time, and that way you don't have to teach it over and over. So tomorrow we're going to change gears a little bit. We've spent the last 4 days teaching Claude how to sound like you. Tomorrow is day 5, and we're going to show you how to make Claude look like you. It's called Claude Design, and it's where you make something that looks like you paid a designer for it. No design background required, and that's tomorrow. So here's your homework. Pick one job, one thing that you do the same over and over. The one that you're tired of re-explaining to AI and re-explaining all those steps. Build it into a skill using Create with Claude, just the same way that I did, and then use it on something real and check whether or not it came out in your format. Come tell me below or in our Facebook group what job you turned into a skill, and that choice alone shows you where you are still doing the same work by hand every week. So if this video helped in any way, please click the subscribe button so the rest of the challenge comes straight to you, and share this with another entrepreneur who is tired of repeating themselves to AI. Gonna say ciao for now, and I'll see you tomorrow.